right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Profit Minded Business Podcast, where we're joined with a really great guests today. But as you know, we come together. We want to always offer something that's practical and actionable in our podcast. But mainly, we wanted to kind of share the stories of other small business owners where they struggle, whether with maybe with some pitfalls that are common to all of us, or if they have a great success story that can motivate the rest of us. So today we're joined by Sonja Smith, who works for Fotopia.
Yes.
And you know me, I'm a guy who really likes to help the bottom line of the business. And what Fotopia does to help efficiency and productivity inside the office is something that's really special. So I'm so thankful that you joined us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And our co-host, Jacob Andrews of iVue Media and Drones iVue, he is the producer of our podcast. So as you're watching, pay attention. This is a rising star in the media world, and he's got so much to offer. So we're super excited to have you again, obviously, as our co-host. Lynn Spencer is our resident CPA, practice owner, and so she always comes to town with some powerful insights when it comes to tax time. And you'll hear a lot from her today as far as how it kind of fits into maybe some productivity stuff that even in your own office that you've experienced. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Corbin Cook with SMB Strategy Consultants. I help business owners focus on the bottom line, get reliable bookkeeping, and maximize their overall profitability. Sonja, talk to us about where you came from and how you ended up working for Fotopia.
Where I came from.
Well, yeah, what's your
We have
background?
plenty of time. So
Okay, good.
I just had a moment where I saw the scene in Goonies when he's sitting there talking to the cop. He's like, and then we went to the movies and
Yes, that was I'm
Okay,
thinking
maybe-
here. I'm like, where
maybe
did I come from?
And then
Fast
after
forward.
fourth grade,
Okay.
fifth grade.
I'll try to fast forward up a little bit for you there.
Yes.
But I've been with Fotopia now for a little over 6 months now, and I started with the company. Well, just to give a little bit of background on my history. I was right after the Marine Corps. I got involved in technology. Right, I started to work with AT&T in Massachusetts, and I transferred with them from there to Kansas City. And then more recently, I worked with BlackBerry during their transition from a phone company to a software company,
That's a
which
whole other podcast.
which I applaud, right? That is another podcast. And most recently, right before Fotopia, I was with Xerox, otherwise known as the paper company, right?
Sure.
So it was there in other companies as well that I really saw the challenges that companies still have when they're struggling to track and keep track of their company's information, right? You see boxes of paper up against the walls in offices, especially government offices, but really, you can find it anywhere. And so when Fotopia approached me with this amazing offer, with this content management solution to help digitize and get those documents off the floor, and I saw what the solution did, I was on board. So,
I was sharing with you a little bit before the podcast about how I've got boxes on my floor.
yeah, you have boxes on your floor. We're gonna fix that.
And I went out and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I want to get everything digital. Like, there's no reason for me to have any paper anywhere, right? And I looked at my printer, my 3-in-1. I was like, you're not going to help me. Because it was like, the way it was set up, it was great to scan to my computer, but it was missing something. So I found this fantastic scanner. It's the Brother scanner. It's like a heavy duty. It was one that really me just trying to do my little home, and work office didn't need. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to make it easy on me.
I'm getting the Brother. I'm getting it.
All of the barriers, all the barriers removed. And it still hasn't happened because it's not that easy.
It's not that easy, but there really are some great tools out there, right? Fotopia, we developed an enterprise content management solution that sits on top of SharePoint, and it integrates with it to expand its capabilities and its reach when it comes to scanning, capturing, storing, search and retrieval of that data, right? So that's wherein lies the true benefits of the solution. And when I say enterprise content management, a lot of people don't even know what that is,
Correct.
right? So
please, you got to speak to everyone here that like before.
So what is enterprise content management?
Thank you.
Well, in a nutshell, it is just the managing, the storing, the creation, the search and retrieval, and networking of your digital documents as it relates to your organization's processes, right? As it relates to your business processes, internal, external, what have you.
So you mentioned SharePoint. What was really interesting to me was how Fotopia basically sits in and works alongside Microsoft, which is who you really talk. When you say SharePoint, you're talking about Microsoft 365.
Absolutely.
Okay.
SharePoint is an application inside of Microsoft's Office suites. So, and SharePoint, how they designed it, well, I go back a little bit farther. In 2017, Gartner redefined enterprise content management, right? At one point in time, it was thought to be this holistic solution that you could go in and it would handle collaboration, compliance, it would just search and retrieval, it would do it all. Well, we know now that that's just not the case, right? And Microsoft had this kind of redefinition in mind when they developed SharePoint because they left it with certain gaps on it. And it's so funny because a lot of people, when they saw these gaps, they were like, oh my gosh, what were they missing? Like, how could they possibly have missed that, Well, they didn't miss anything. What they did is they had these gaps there so that companies can go in and better customize the solution based on whatever their specific needs are, right? So if your needs are just you're getting about 20 documents or so a day, POs, invoices, you want to scan them, employee files into a file, a searchable, retrievable repository, that would be SharePoint. Or if you have large amounts of transactional data, just large construction company where you're getting POs and invoices in.
Attorney firms,
Law firms, contracts, you name it. You need to be able to digitize that. So wherever your need is, be it high volume of documents or transaction that needs to be digitized or a small volume that needs to be digitized, we can still accomplish your goals.
Okay, so I'm obviously a small business, so I'm not a large firm dealing with, a ton of documents on a daily basis, but I do have a lot of historical documents that I need to make organized. So I guess I've now been a Microsoft 365 enterprise, user for some time now. I look at SharePoint, I'm like, I don't know what that is. So maybe just get even more basic and use me as an example for a minute. A lot of historical documents, I want to digitize them. I have SharePoint. I just met Fotopia. Help me understand what SharePoint does and where you guys fit in the gaps.
Well, SharePoint, as I said, is going to help you manage those organizational processes, help you store your data. What we're going to do, because one of the things SharePoint is missing.
SharePoint, so I use Google Drive to store all my things in the cloud that I'm currently using in the cloud.
Okay.
SharePoint is the same?
No, SharePoint is not the same as Google Drive. It is, it's more of an expansive platform, right? It's an expansive platform where you can generate workflows in there. You can do, a multitude of things depending on what your business is. So whether it's generating workflows, whether it's team or internal collaboration. Say you have, I'm not sure what, say your finance process would be or approval process maybe within your finance organization. Maybe a manual process where you're printing off something, taking it over to your CFO to sign off on something as granular as that, right? And what this will allow you to do is to digitize and automate that process, right? So you can go in and you can stamp and you can edit, you can make comments on your documents, you can redact information on documents, sign documents, all within SharePoint, attach them and send them on their merry way, email them to where they need to go, or send them over to a teammate to collaborate on them as well, get their comments on it, and have it all right there, save it to your file so it's there for you.
Okay.
And the other thing is, a lot of people don't understand is a lot of companies, and me in general before, is when we save documents, when we save a file or a folder, we put a nomenclature on it, right? ABC company, underscore, PO, we name it, right? But in all actuality, that document's already named because it's whatever it is. It's a PO, it's an employee file, it's an application, it's a receipt, it's an onboarding process, whatever it may be. So the information that you need to be capturing is on that specific document. So you need to capture the name, the address, or whatever it is that you need. And you can set that up to where your system is catching information off of the document, not off of how you're naming the nomenclature. Somebody else comes in 6 months later, they got a whole new nomenclature style. So they're tapping on there, ABC/ or something else to find that document, or a ... or who knows, right? But so it's really good with the indexing. It allows you to capture the data that you need off of the documents. And
So is that like, okay, say I have a PO, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just hit the scanner, hit scan. It's going to scan it and then identify from the, what do you call it, OCR?
from the OCR, exactly, from
Pull the data.
predefined text. So it will identify, it's going to scan it into your system, and then when you're indexing, it goes through a sort of a quality assurance, right? You have scan, index, quality assurance, and then export. It's generally the process of how companies go with their data. But you can choose to go through all those 4 steps, or you could just choose to scan it and have it exported directly into a folder that you need to go to. You may want to have it go through indexing to where it's pulling that data off of the document and then exporting to a predefined folder.
When you say pulling the data, it may have a PO number.
It's going to
And
pull
you've
that.
defined that you want it to
Pull that PO
automatically
number.
pull that number off the document, name it through that functionality, or maybe it's more than just that one PO. Maybe it's the PO number and the name.
Exactly. So it's
You
classification.
determine how that
You
works.
determine. So you set up your metadata. You structure it how you want to be able to retrieve what information you want to get off of that data, and not by the name itself, right?
Will it do that for handwritten text? If you write well enough?
If you write well enough, that's a good question. You gotta get my pre-sales. But it will store any data. So I would absolutely do it for a handwritten text, because it's readable. You can, if this is something that you do on a regular basis, right? If you're already writing text, because if you're scribbling on text, then it's going to be where you're grabbing that data from, right? You're just putting that in a folder per se, because it's not in any structured format. It's just you kind of scribbling.
So
Just writing all over it.
You're
You're trying to find some
my
way to
handwritten
file all your
notes. Yeah, I'm
handwritten
like,
notes,
I
right?
was
You're like,
wondering if I could create where in my notes, if I had one section that I always did the same writing style, maybe it could grab that. Like if I used one area on the paper that always had a name and a whatever I want to identify it with, maybe it could just
You
read
could, if you
that.
kept it in that same area each and every time, if it was structured like that, sure.
Interesting.
now, does this work with any type of like visual content, or is it purely document based?
Good question.
It's not purely document based, because data can be anything, right?
Right.
Your data can be video, it can be text, so it can be
Photo, it could be infrared scanning.
exactly. So
Right.
your insurance company, you're taking pictures of cars and accidents out there, so your data is pictures. So yeah, your data is basically
So could you then set up to like organize your data? You scan in a photo of your car, for that example. Would you be able to like set categories for, all right, this is all of the documentation of all the accidents I've been throughout the year. So whenever you like take a photo of your car, it's automatically gonna go into that folder based off of the parameters that you set.
based off of the parameters that you set, correct. If you have it set up to where it's going to grab that information, it's going to recognize that data, or recognize this as a picture, and pull off of some information off of that, then yes. So
Okay.
it's all about configuration.
Right.
So you can get as granular as you want to with configuration. That would entail, the more granular you get, then the cost, because this is all going to start, adding up, because you're getting, so it's granular. The more granular you go, then the more your cost could be, because you would need like maybe some SharePoint or IT involvement to help you set that up.
So did Fotopia like always start that way, to your knowledge, where they were about the different configurations for managing your data, or was that like over time, was that I guess business model adopted? Because I'm starting to see that a lot more commonly used now. Like for example, like Apple, they don't develop all the apps on the App Store. They open it up. They opened up their phone for other developers to come in, similar to like SharePoint did, or Microsoft did with SharePoint. And it sounds like Fotopia is even doing that within their own ecosystem to allow for different configurations of, this is how I like to manage, organize, and structure my data.
Well,
Does
we
that make
do.
sense?
I think what you're asking me is, do we work with companies and customers to help them customize,
Yeah.
to help them better customize, so that they can get the results that they're looking for? Then yes, the answer to that would be yes. We do absolutely work with them to see what their objectives are, what they're truly trying to accomplish, and then if we can tweak something within our platform to make it work better for them, we absolutely will do that. And we've had situations where we've did that to talk to different other platforms that the company may have, where they have some other documents over here, and they want to be able to talk together. So we've had to put in connectors and certain things so that you could achieve the actual results that you were trying to.
So with being so focused on like document management, you're probably familiar with like the Adobe suite of like, I forget what it's called. There's the Adobe Reader, and then there's
DC, and then there's
there's the DC where you can actually like electronically fill out PDFs. Is there any sort of way to do that within the Fotopia system, so you're not having to send out the document to someone else in your organization and for them to sign it or fill it out? Is that possible?
Well, comments and annotations and edits, that's all definitely possible. You can all do that. That's part of our viewer suite. And what that enables you to do, it has a scan client on it. So not only can you scan your documents right into your SharePoint or your predefined folders, but you can also be able to do, exactly what you just mentioned.
Okay.
That I forgot.
So
Well, he was just saying. So, but the reality is like what SharePoint and Fotopia have. When you combine them together, it
Yes.
removes all the unnecessary steps that we find that we're having to take. Like Jacob was saying, where somebody creates looks at
Absolutely.
Adobe
Now I'm back
on
on
the
page.
PDF, and they're having to redact it over here, but then they've got to send it out for someone else to look at it, and it's just too many steps.
Too many steps, and that's exactly some of the processes and things where we come in and we really solve these issues for customers, right? Exactly what you're speaking of. I had a company one time, a project management company, and they had a situation where they had Adobe, right, as well, but they would have to do appraisals or send out appraisals for certain jobs to get like 4 or 5 appraisals, right? And they want to get the same scope of work for each and every appraisal that they get back. They want to make sure that they're getting apples for apples on there.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have to redact the information off of that document. They redact who the company is, redact, what their fees were for each, item and the total cost, and send it on, email it. Well, they were printing it out, redacting the information, rescanning it, attaching that document, to the email, and sending it on its way. With Adobe, you would have to do that because Adobe is great, but it doesn't sit on top of SharePoint. It doesn't integrate with SharePoint. So you would still have to go outside, go over there, do those things, save it, then attach it, and send it on its way. Whereas with our solution, since it integrates with SharePoint, it cuts out some of those steps.
Have you guys figured out, what the time savings or what the productivity increase can be? Do you have some ranges or?
It is known to increase companies' productivity. Have you ever lost something and tried to, of course you have. You know how that feels when you're trying to find something, right?
Right.
Such a pain. Well, not only does it drain on your time and your productivity, but it also drains on your morale, right? How bummed do you get when you're trying to find something and you can't find it? You're just like, give up, I'll look for it later, right? Well, you can't do that in business. You can't do that in business. You have to find it, but sometimes it's just as hard to find documents. So not only is it increasing the productivity time, but office morale, the motivation, it just aids in so many other things that you're going through in your day-to-day in your office.
Right.
So when you want to equate that, we've had one company where we were able to cut back like 60% of because a lot of their data was all unstructured. It was a law firm, and they were having to search for things all the time, right? So once you eliminate that, then the advantages and what you can do from that point on
It's interesting.
is huge.
Right now, the labor market is so tight. Like unemployment is low, so you're finding that companies are really having a hard time finding good people. And I can only imagine that part of the selling point that I keep hearing is make the office life better, make the culture better, make it feel better. Let it be less of a pain in the butt, less of a morale drain. So to have something like this in it, not only is it going to save money on the bottom line, you're going to get more out of your people because they're able to do things at a higher level than all these mundane tasks. But they're also going to be happier.
They're gonna be happier. They're gonna be happier.
I mean, I just sounds like the perfect employee culture fix in
Right?
a world where
They don't have to look for things. They can,
especially
edit,
with the
annotate.
millennials today. Millennials
yeah.
do not put up with bad technology. Am I right?
No time for bad technology. This is true.
Time, man.
So this kind of brings up a problem in my office. I have a handful of older CPAs in the office.
Yeah,
And
I was thinking about your office. I
love
was thinking about the boxes
paper.
on the
They love
shelf.
paper.
They love paper. And we work with small businesses and individuals as well, but small businesses. So we have to have all their organization papers, everything about the business, plus all the data for the business each year. So it is an incredible amount of paper. And there are a lot of clients.
With all that paper, like
Well,
boxes.
I'll tell you what,
file
sometimes
cabinets?
a client will call one of the CPAs and say, can I have a copy of something? They will go to the software, they will print off a copy, scan it, and then email it to the, and send it to the admin saying keep password encrypted, and then email it to the client, and then take that paper that's like 30 pages and shred it. And so I have, like, when I got in there, this is a daily occurrence. You should see the paper we go through.
So what do you think it would do?
Oh my goodness.
I
Lynn.
don't know how to get, because I've said, if you could, first of all, you've just wasted 30 pieces of paper or more. You could have went to the file and grabbed the same pieces of paper in the file and scanned it and put it back. And at least the paper's not wasted, but that's still a lot of time. Or you could go to the software, print to PDF, and send it to the client. But it
Why
is
print to
something
PDF?
about the
Why print to
paper.
PDF?
They
Isn't it
just,
Well, because that's just the functionality that's available right now.
Okay.
Same
there's
thing. I
something
know
about
exactly
the
what she's
paper,
talking
and
about.
there's no grasp of the trees. And then, we do have the millennials there as well, and they're like, oh my God, that's so wasteful. Oh my God.
We have such
So I
a
don't know, how do
fixation
you-
with paper, right? There's certain things you just
I
you're
print
gonna always
things.
have to
I
have in
print
paper.
things.
Like books, I have to, for some reason, I have to read
Okay.
a book.
Yeah, I don't like reading up the screen myself, but
I gotta have a book. But when it comes to my office, and that's another story. But yeah, some things
it's
we
very
we have to have.
costly. So what do you have for me that could help encourage an older generation?
Yes.
Because I've tried. I've
Are
not
you guys
been
on
successful.
Microsoft 365 by chance? Nope. Okay, well,
That
start.
might be a good start.
That would definitely be a good start. But it's it's just a matter of them digitizing. They still can keep their paper if they want to keep their paper, but it's a digital paper, right? So it's still there. They can print it off. They can find it a lot quicker, a lot easier. Go in and just attach it to wherever they need to attach it to and send it on its way. Have to create it into a PDF. It may already be a PDF or a Word document, but you can, if it's already in a format that you can mail, you can just go in, find it, do a search and retrieval, and away it goes.
It's all built into the
password
system.
protected. You can do it. Thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
Corbin. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
put a
It's
password
huge.
protection on there and allow for, they have to have a code or to punch it in, like a 4-digit number, or it recognizes them based on their user exchange, pulling down from exchange. But more than anything, they would have to punch in a code. But yes, password protected on top of that. So all
Yeah,
that
so I'm curious as the cost as well, because I'm dealing with the cost of paper, the cost of the shredder.
That's right.
The cost of the shredder, because I have so much shredding every month, and the cost of storage, because ultimately everything we have is
Yeah.
in
It's
paper.
cheap. She's like, I got paper everywhere, Sonja.
And then, I'm also covering the cost of, okay, the Department of Revenue needs some document from 2006. Can you go into the storage unit and find it? And then hours later, there's a lot here. I'm about halfway through.
Wow.
So there's a lot of cost at the paper.
Absolutely.
And I am
The
so
storage, the
curious.
server.
I'm
So
so
was it-
curious as
was
how
this-
long it would take
Yes.
to digitize maybe a 10 by 15 storage unit.
How high is it? How high are the boxes?
As high,
Too high.
as high as like gravity will allow them to be.
Oh, no. That's high.
Yeah.
It would not, it's not an expensive, it's not an expensive solution. And that's where I think a lot of companies just kind of stay away from it altogether because
Absolutely.
they think it's going to be some overly expensive operation, but it's not. I mean, per user, it can go as little as $20 per user per month per year, depending on what you're having done. Maximum 60, so it just really depends. And for something like that, you're talking about scanning and emptying out this whole warehouse, then you would get scanners, maybe hire some people to come in on the weekends to scan and keep feeding that scanner to get it all up in the cloud, get it digitized, and then
And 10 years later, you'll have.
10 years.
See, the problem is I don't think Janet would ever let go of some of this stuff.
Some of the paper.
Well, you only have to digitize it up to a certain point, so you got to decide when are you
Exactly.
going to go
Gotta
back.
start
And you could just
somewhere.
simply go back, like start now with everything present and future, and then decide over a period of months how you're going to attack what year going backwards, and then you just stop at some point. Let the rest of you.
So we
archive.
purchased a couple of years ago a second screen for every person. Janet just got rid of her second screen. Judy doesn't use that ever. So they're just very old fashioned in
And Lynn, I would say
that production of work.
Well, hold on now. Do you come in? Part of your job is to come in and do an evaluation of what they're doing currently.
absolutely.
And then you're going to say to them, you're going to identify lost opportunities, lost productivity, lost just time. Because during tax season, the amount of time you probably lose from a paper-based system is probably pretty
I can't
significant.
imagine.
Would
When
you
we're
guess?
doing bigger projects like that, that's more of something that the business owner knows that you're gonna have to wait until the summer. If you need us to go back a gazillion years and pull
you're
up
not
all these
having
old
that.
partnerships and
Okay.
refigure something, that's a summer project. So it's
Okay.
not a.
So you're not really losing the productivity because of paper during this tax season?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not too much. It's summertime though.
In the summertime. And see, the thing is now with search and retrieval, it's getting as much attention as cybersecurity, right? Because there is risk in paper. There is huge risk in paper. And you speak of how they love their paper so much. Well, I hope there's not going to be a natural disaster
Oh, yeah.
or a flood or something that could happen that could wipe that paper right away, and then there's no recovery of it. It's just
Well,
gone.
Let's
for
talk
good.
about that though, because
I might not be too upset. But
there seems to be, there's just as much concern over the potential for natural disaster in the physical as there is in the the world of the cloud. So how does one find confidence? What is the redundancy? How do you protect the information? And then EMP goes off. Something, the weird things we can come up with.
How do you protect the information after it's digitized and in the
Yeah,
cloud?
you got hackers. You got people who are holding Baltimore for ransom. You know what I'm saying? Because of these malware attacks.
exactly.
And what do we do when everything's in the cloud and we can't get to it anymore?
Well, that's a cybersecurity
For sure.
question, and maybe on your next panel we can get somebody
need to
in
find
here from
somebody.
cybersecurity. But what I would advise them to do, I mean, there's risk in everything, right? There's a little risk in no matter what we do or what path we take. It's all about minimizing that risk,
Absolutely.
so that it's not it's not so great to where it really could damage and hurt your business if something were to happen. So maybe like for Lynn, it may not be to go in and scan. They would have a hard time getting rid of all those documents in there. So you start small, right? You minimize the risk little bit by bit by bit until you get to where you want to be. So it doesn't have to be all at once, but as long as you need to be aware of it. And with the compliance laws that are coming into effect, with the consumer privacy laws that are coming into effect, we have GDP. The CCPA is pretty much like the European GDPR, and there's going to be some other laws that come into effect to protect consumers' information. And in California, consumers can actually file lawsuits against companies that that don't handle their proprietary information, their private information, the right way. So, I mean, it's only a matter of time. So it really is. Now is the time to get a handle on your
Just get
documents.
acquainted with it.
Exactly. And I was speaking with you earlier, Corbin, about preparing for the end. A lot of companies out there are trying to are building up their business and they want to be acquired, right? Well, when these venture capitalists come in or when these companies come in to buy your company, they're going to ask you for all kinds of data, all kinds of paper, all kinds of reports,
Right.
your offer letter, what you did back then. You need to have that data.
Yeah.
If you don't, you may shut down the process before it even starts to really get going. So
Right.
because some deals just can't happen if you cannot produce that information.
Well, no one
So-
wants to buy it. I mean, if you're looking to ever retire from your small business, no one wants to buy a business they have no transparency on. I mean, you're just going to take
Exactly.
someone's word on something as
Exactly.
important as that.
Exactly. So it's important whether you're starting out right now to get on a platform to where you can manage and control your documents, or whether you're trying to digitize documents that you've been storing, in storage facilities and paying some exuberant costs for a very long time, whatever it may be, there's no right time to start. The time is just now, right?
Yeah, sure.
There's no right time. I mean, it's like, or at the beginning of your business, at the end of your business, wait a little bit. It's important to start doing something.
What are some of the pitfalls, Sonja, that you've seen as you go into some of these businesses that are still doing things, manually? What are some of what are the worst things that you've seen as far as document content management and organization?
Well, I mean, depends on what office I'm in, but I've been in lawyers' offices, which just terrified me when I see, all these documents and boxes of who knows what that lawsuit or that case was about, right? Or what information on that whoever that client was that they have in that box that's just sitting there, right? I always find that to be a really big risk whenever I go into law firms or areas where the information could be very sensitive. Right? Sensitive information, doctor's offices, sensitive information that is just laying around. So I've had, horror stories where law firms have not been able to produce the documents that they needed to in a short amount of time and end up getting sued for it or ended up having legal recourse because of it. Cases can be won and lost because you can't find something that's going to help you
Right.
win that case. So when you say the worst case scenario, when I walk in, exactly, it's the sensitive information when I walk into offices for sensitive places that I see laying all around.
Because they have big dollars attached to the consequences. Right. So, I mean, a small business who may be, old school and moving paper from one desk to the next isn't as much of a financial risk, but they're just they're wasted productivity.
Exactly. They're
their
using
bottom
it.
line is suffering. They've got a leak in their profitability.
And it's more important at this stage too to really get things to where it's running and operating on where things are streamlined, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're always stop and go. You're working in an office where you have to stop and do this and stop and do that. You just want to be able to be on all cylinders and go full speed ahead. And that's what we want to enable companies to do when it comes to managing paper.
So, just going back to your office for a minute, do you have a way to, when you are introduced to a business that, half of the folks are willing to move into technology solutions and then half the folks aren't really willing? So, can you step into it, or starting off with, a basic level of scanning things in, and they still have the hard copies, they still have the boxes, but, all of a sudden you're going to say, hey, where is this? And you're going to say, well, just go to boom. And then they're going to pull it up and it's there and they're going to go, oh, right. Do you have a way to help a company step into technology and have light bulbs go off, over so many months that then allows them to embrace more technology?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely makes sense. And that's why at Fotopia, we have our 3 flagship products are broken up into really like three products, right? So to handle whatever stage that you may be at, whether you're at the beginning stage and you're just needing viewing, editing, annotations, or not doing a lot of, or you don't have a lot of documents or things, or you're at the middle stage where you really want to index and capture that data, or at the discovery where you need to be able to search. You have a lot of documents in there and you need to be able to search and retrieve it quickly. So there's different stages, there's different modules based on what stage you're in.
Okay, great.
So you don't have to go in. It's no longer a rip and replace, right?
Okay.
Back in the day, they tried to tell everybody these all big encompassing enterprise content management systems, right? It's like you need this huge thing to make everything work right? And so it was a big expense for companies. And
Right.
that's why, they a lot of times steered away from it because it was so expensive and so all encompassing,
Right,
right?
it's overwhelming. There's
It-
a big learning curve
too
to
much.
it, right?
Yes,
Too
it's
much.
just too much. You can't handle all of that technology
has
right
time for that?
now, right?
Yeah.
So that's why SharePoint is designed the way it is, and that's why our modules are designed the way they are to whatever stage that you are in. It's scalable solution.
That's fantastic.
So you mentioned earlier on that Fotopia is actually not based out of the U.S. It started in the UAE, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So can you talk about how that got started, if you know any of its history, and then how it transitioned here into America, and then
Sure.
your role in getting the business developed over here in the States?
Sure. The company was started in Dubai, or headquartered in Dubai still. Been in enterprise content management now for over 20 years. And they started right when SharePoint came out about 10 years ago. They saw, how this platform was up and coming, right? So they, I don't know if you know or not, but Dubai is on track right now to be the first paperless city in the world, and the UAE may be the first paperless government in the world. So this technology, it comes not because it's such an expensive, it's because it's designed to just get the job done, to take those core needs of what organizations need to be able to maintain and control, organize their processes, and do that without it crippling or breaking the bank, right? So our CEO, he saw this this huge need for just a nitty-gritty kind of solution that didn't have all these bells and whistles. Like I said, too much technology can be overwhelming, right? You may
Yeah.
not need it to do all of this stuff. You just need something to manage your documents, to control
Right.
things. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're not trying to save the world. You just want to be able to, you know what I mean?
Right.
You don't need business. You don't need all of that. You just want to be able to store it and find it and file it. And he took that that technology and adopted it, in Dubai, which is doing so well. And we brought that technology here.
No, that's great.
Do you have an application for home-based users?
Yes. Yes, we do. Because the software is Microsoft App Store for Viewer. You can go in and download it, do a free trial of it. You can come in and kind of talk you through it, walk you through it, how have that conversation. But yes, it is available, and you can download it just like that right now.
So your question, what is your role though? What are you doing now?
So my role, sorry, I didn't finish answering your question there, but my role is I oversee business development and partner relations with expanding the products here in North America.
And now, you briefly mentioned your military background, followed by some experience with different technology companies. Both sounds like both on the hardware and software side.
Yes.
What experience from those endeavors have you been able to bring into Fotopia, and what have you felt have been the most important traits that you've picked up from some of those roles?
Well, I would say one of the more important things is being able to see all the different, working on hardware and working on software, it's seeing the different areas within an organization and being able to connect them together so I can have a full picture, full kind of bird's eye view of what that IT environment may look like, right? So it's giving me the capability and the strength to walk into it and understand what a customer's needs are, not just as it relates to enterprise content management, right? But as it may relate to other things within their environment, to be at their mobile management, to be at their paper management, such as with Xerox. So it's made me a much more, I believe, credible, a much more, a better resource,
Right.
should I say, with being able to help them uncover what their needs are, what objectives they have, and how best to accomplish them.
Now, away from kind of the technology, since you're leading the business development, what type of people skills, I guess, not just from those companies, but your military background, I'm sure you got a lot of leadership training that has, kind of,
No, yes.
that's kind of, helped out with your role. And essentially, when we first met, you explained that your role is very much like that of a startup, because it's so new over here in the US, it's well established over in Europe, that you're really having to take on almost a business owner mindset, even though Fotopia is not your company.
Exactly. This is true. I've definitely had to take on sort of like this is my baby type of atmosphere, and I mean role in this in bringing the product over here to market, and that with working with that, you know, the role is about just developing relationships, right? It's different and it's hard, but more than anything, you got to get out there and you got to get in front of people, and you have to develop those relationships. You have to let them know who you are, you know, and how you can add value and how you can benefit what their overall objectives, right? How you can help them meet them better on a day-to-day basis. So it's you have to constantly tweak things. You know, so I say that if you're trying to get things off the ground and something's not working, don't stay the course. If it's not working, then do something different to kind of shift it up a little bit. So a lot of times we get stuck in, no, but this worked for, well, you know your products and know who those clients are that best fit your product's needs, right? Don't go out and try to sell something where somebody may need all kinds of bells and whistles and things, and you know that's not what you're bringing to the table. You're bringing more of an organizational platform, more of a way for them to just better manage, better control, have insight into, you know, their day-to-day operations.
Employee culture on top of that. It's just the culture of the business. Like, it becomes
Exactly.
part of that culture.
It does become part of the culture of the business and how those operations and those processes are done on
I
a
think if
day-to-day
I was
basis.
looking to be hired by a company, if I understood this, I would literally be looking to find a company that was using technology like this to make my work life more enjoyable.
So that's right, millennials. You start asking those employers. You guys on Office 365, how are we managing our data? How am I searching and retrieving documents when I need them?
I mean, I'm serious though, right? I mean, tell me
Yes.
how important that is all of a sudden. When I start to think about the ramifications of, you know, business A or business B, both being the same industry, both being the same type, which one would I choose to work for?
Right.
It's going to be the one that isn't behind on technology.
It's adopting the new exciting technology. I mean, especially in the software world, I know that's a huge thing for even attracting like the development talent. That's something that my dad kind of exposed me to working at his past company as CTO, where they were having problems finding good talent to develop technology for the mainframes, and they weren't adopting cloud-based solutions like the rest of the world was. So all the developers that they had resented their work, and as soon as they had the opportunity to go to a company adopting new technology, they did so. So I think
Because you feel like
speaks
it's
volumes,
stunting your
right?
growth. It's like,
Exactly.
you know, it's like I'm not learning
Right.
here. I'm back in the dark ages when I need to be, you know, in the 21st century, you know. So I think that, you know, 22nd century, I need to be light years ahead.
Sorry,
Well,
man.
We're
What?
not concerned with colors and charts and all that. We're like tax software, and that's like
Well, and in your
100% of our tool.
Yeah, in your industry, it seems like you guys are at a good place with what your specialty is.
And we do have very good tax
Yeah,
software.
and you guys have everything else, but I didn't mean to make it sound like that. But you know that, but it is interesting to me. I keep thinking, you know, when I'm talking to businesses, so much value goes in, or should be going towards building an employee culture, a work culture, a,
Oh my
a company
goodness, yes.
culture, and that's really what brings a sense of purpose. You know, or it fosters the ability to have more of a purposeful existence in that environment, as opposed to feeling like you're
Just
trucking
grinding
to-
away.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to spend time, like you want to have more time to critical think solutions and things within your
Organization.
workspace?
Free-
Exactly. Or you want to
another-
be running around like
Yeah, trying. Yeah.
just doing manual
Well,
stuff
you can
all the
get so
time.
much more out of your people. I keep saying to myself, so I'm like, that's such a critical point of business improvement going forward. I mean, you know, I talk to a lot of businesses. I basically offer a review and reputation marketing platform for companies that are service-based that want to get reviews from customers. Well, a lot of companies don't realize how important it is to have a structured system that campaigns and builds them out, all this stuff. Well, if you look at the stats in 2010, only 25% of our customers were comfortable spending money with businesses they found online. Only 25%. It's like 1 in 4, it mattered. If you had a good review and you were like, you go to a restaurant, my wife won't let me go to a restaurant unless she checks Yelp.
Yep.
She wants to see. And so this is what's happened. So in 2018, it was 70% of our customers are buying and spending money with businesses they find online. 70%.
Wow. That's a huge
7 out of 10
number.
people are likely to go online and look at reviews in order to make a purchasing decision. And when you have one company that has 53, 4.8 stars, or you have a company that has 1,000, you feel more comfortable on the social proof to go and use the company that has 1,000 because you have 1,000 people telling you that your experience is going to be a good one versus the 50. Now, 50 is a lot. That's 50 people who have used this company, but in the face of 1,000, it's no longer relevant.
But and I would still tell companies and tell people, just look at solutions based on what your needs are. Who knows what those people's needs were and why they decided on this particular product. They may not be your needs. So make sure you're getting what you want and not what everybody else
Don't stop
wants.
at the review. Dig
Yeah,
a little deeper.
Yeah.
Right.
Dig a little deeper. See what
Right.
solutions are provided, how it's implemented, what the costs are.
But it's the idea that not adapting a new mindset around how the world is changing, how people are now interacting with their employers, and to the degree of being aware of a trend change. So a construction company that's still passing papers back and forth, a lot of things are getting missed. Invoicing isn't happening. When all they have to do is have a conversation with Sonja to help identify ways that they could make these improvements on a scalable system, not all at once, not overwhelm everybody who's not cool with it, but just do it in parts so that over a period of, let's say, 2 or 3 years, they find themselves in a much stronger position.
Utopia.
Is that where that came from? Fotopia? That's amazing.
Right.
So based on all of the exposure you've had to businesses that may have inefficient processes, whether it's through your time at Fotopia, past companies you've been at, or even through your military experience, what's a trade or piece of advice that you would give someone that's struggling to get to the next step in their business, their life, their career path, whatever it may be that you find valuable?
I would say know what you want, identify what it is that you want to achieve, and be disciplined about it, and don't listen to the naysayers. Right? Just be committed in your belief in yourself and what you can accomplish, and just get it done.
Just get it done.
Just do it.
Yes.
Nike, don't sue us.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm now at that point where I'm like Lynn, where I have the boxes and the paper, in the office anyway. So I've got to get set up.
Let's do it.
I'm so sick of having that. I
get rid of
even
that
made the
paper.
effort and realized it was a mountain that I didn't know how to climb.
You're like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know what I do. I just keep scanning documents. They're going nowhere. Where is this cloud? I don't even see it anymore.
I can help you with that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you made, where the best way that I found to continue progress that I've made, still very early on in my life in general, but definitely early on in building out my career path, I started with the end. And as counterintuitive as that may seem, you're going to get lost if you don't know where you're going, I think is the way to kind of boil it down.
Exactly. So you started with the end, so you have a...
Yeah, you reverse engineer the path, so to speak.
You got to start with the end in mind.
Right. But
I would say...
Yeah.
And when you stumble, get right back up.
Exactly.
My favorite quote that sticks with me since I read it in a quote book in 6th grade, if you fall on your face, you're still moving forward. And a lot of people don't like to fall on their face.
Uh-huh.
But
And that's so true. You're still moving forward.
Yeah. Well, Sonja, thank you so much for joining us.
Corbin, Jacob, Lynn, thanks for having me, guys. It really is a pleasure to be here.
It's a
Absolutely.
big deal.
Thank you.
It's a big deal what you're doing. And there are companies that are other competitors, but the way you integrate with SharePoint and having that stair-step ability,
Exactly.
I think is really important, because that is always a barrier. The cost and the rip and replace is such a broken model that I'm so glad that you guys have figured out that there's a better way.
Now, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you would like to add on, or?
Well, I would say that, in this expansion, we are reaching out. We're partnering with the various partners, here, and the partners that would best suit us, or best fit us, not suit us, sorry, would best fit us would be like, SharePoint consultants, managed services, anyone who's working with SharePoint or consulting on IT. So we're really looking to make some strong partner connections and really grow some relationships here.
And how would those people reach out to you or Fotopia?
Those people can reach out to me by contacting us at our office number here, which is 404. I have to write down my office number because it's like one of those. I'm so used to just dialing it, just hitting my phone. But it's 404-806-7496.
Do you have an email address?
Yes, and you guys can email me at sonja.smith@Fotopia, and that's FOTOPIA.tech.
That's great. .tech. Interesting.
Fotopia Tech, yes.
Okay. All right.
Fotopia Tech.
Jacob, you know Jacob as the producer of the podcast, as well as corporate videos, and he does some incredible drone work when it comes to construction and surveying.
Absolutely.
And don't forget about your home insurance. He also does the video of your home contents to lower your insurance bill. Certain companies.
Yeah, certain companies.
Certain companies. But Jacob, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, you're always a great co-host. Sometimes I feel like you're the host.
That's why we have a team, right?
That's it. We're a team player here. Share with us how they can get a hold of you.
Go to our website, iVue.media, similar to .tech, so no .com. You can also find us by searching iVue Media on any social media platform, see some of our content there, have our contact information there as well, or you can reach out to me directly at 678-249-0579.
Awesome. Lynn, tell us, how can someone reach out to you if they're ready to take the jump and get into a routine where they're talking about their tax planning? Businesses do not understand how valuable this is.
No, they don't. They will.
Yeah.
When those letters start coming.
Yes, they will.
Or it gets out of control because they haven't caught up.
Uncle Sam
with,
comes knocking.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't caught up with the business. The taxes get past it. But anyway, I am always reachable at 770-552-8286. And we can have a nice long conversation or short and get you going in the right direction.
That's great. And you guys are doing a lot. You guys do a blog, and so you do a lot of, you share a lot of great information. So even if a business owner isn't really in the mindset of, hey, I want to start talking to a CPA, other than just do my taxes, they can actually come to the website and get a lot of free resources, a lot of knowledge, just from being a part of your email list. Am I right?
Yeah, we are always sending out information, and we just want to educate the people around us and
Great.
because
And that's Killingsworth Spencer
LLC.
LLC.com, and they can just sign up by going to the blog or resource section. Awesome. And of course, I'm Corbin Cook with SMB Strategy Consultants, and I focus on helping business owners find ways to improve their bottom line, and to not only improve their bottom line, but create a better cash flow system. I've seen a lot of bottom line numbers that look really pretty, but after you factor in all the different payments that go out behind the scenes, they're still cash flow negative. So if you're struggling with cash flow and you want to find some solutions that allow you to put your profit first, you give me a call at 404-783-3305. And thanks everyone for being here, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Corbin.